What is up, everybody, and welcome back to episode 16 of the reunion of Final Fantasy VII Remake podcast. I am your host, Kai, and joining me is my incredible co-host, Vyzz. How are you doing, Vyzz?
I'm still alive and trucking along slowly. It's been a fun year so far. How you've been doing?
I've been doing okay. I've been just enjoying this amazing break that we both took from doing the podcast. After everything, the game came out and we were super busy before that. And then during the game release, and then the game came out and we played it. And then we talked a lot for a very long time about a lot of things about this game. And pretty much like we both didn't really have a break. So I know that I needed some time away from everything, so I've just been enjoying my time, outside and enjoying the weather and trying to do things that I enjoy doing, and now we're back. So, and how did you enjoy your break? What have you been up to?
Yeah, I also had to kind of take a break because almost 1 year of constant Final Fantasy content creation. Like, I barely played any game besides this Star Wars. How's it called? Jedi.
Yes, Fallen Order.
Fallen Order. Yeah, exactly. That's one I took the time off a little bit to play, but otherwise I was practically only working on CCO content, and I really felt it. I needed to just take a break. I still tried to slowly work on things, but it just got worse and worse and worse, and I had less and less energy, and I just needed to recuperate a little bit. So I also took a break, but now things are picking up again. I started playing hard modes. I'm at I finished chapter 9, so I beat the Hell House, but
nice.
I needed to thanks. I needed to repeat chapter 9 because you need to also go through the other quests for Madame M and for Chocobo Sam.
Yes,
both to get all the manuscripts.
Right.
So yeah, I'm now stuck on Hell House again, and the point where I maybe died 2 more times. I thought, no, I just need a break now. I just want to play other games too. And now I've been playing Shantae, like the Half Genie Hero and the Seven Sirens, the newest ones. And yeah, it was a pretty good change of pace to play a platformer again. I love platformers. I've been growing up with platformers back then, and it's really nice. But I need to go back into hard mode soon again.
Yeah.
I need to finish this at some point.
Yeah, it's the same thing with me, actually. I started hard mode immediately after I finished my first playthrough of the game, and then I stopped because I kind of was burnt out a little bit, and the same thing kind of happened where I was fighting a boss, and then I did it multiple times over and over again, and I wasn't being successful at it. So then I was just like, I need to take a break from this. And then we ended up taking a break from the podcast and everything. And I've just been playing some other games as well right now, but I do need to get back into it and just, complete it. And I really want to get that platinum. So, yeah, that's my goal for this year. Just to finish it and platinum it, so
still have time. 4 months.
So if you guys didn't already know, Vyzz is the creator of Cosmo Canyon Observatory YouTube channel. He does incredibly detailed analysis videos on the Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I'm sure you're going to be continuing on into the future and continuing to create content for the subsequent parts that will be released in this franchise. So how have things been going over at CCO? Any new projects or things that you wanted to promote?
Nothing new per se, but thanks to the hiatus, I also had to change paradigms a little bit, think of things. I always had troubles with recording scripts.
Right.
It always took so long. I had to do so many retakes and stuff, and it bothered me for a long time. And now I felt if I want to keep doing this regularly, I just need someone else to do this for me. So I started a casting call, asked people to audition, which had the interest and also felt confident enough to do this for quite a while. And 7 people auditioned, which we chose 5 to then present to the audience. So the audience could choose which one of those they felt most comfortable listening to. And yeah, one of them got chosen and already recorded the script for the next one, and it's now in editing phase. It's
Nice.
with video about the Whispers, the Arbiters of Fate.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a little bit over an hour, possibly. So there's a lot to digest there. A lot of details, little crumbs, little explanations, and some theories and stuff. I hope it should be interesting enough, even though many other people already have talked about this. But yeah, it should be good. And I'm currently writing the script for the Aerith's analysis, especially her additional knowledge and abilities and stuff. And I also found new things, new hypotheses and theories. It's going to be interesting.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what's going on. Just picking up things again and trying to get everything out regularly, hopefully. Like at least one video a month is my goal, which should be possible. But
I think so.
Also the research and the script writing takes a lot of time. Lately, I can't find too much time to do that, and sometimes I'm also a little bit exhausted, so I need to maybe sit it out on one day, maybe Sundays or something. But it's going forward. Yeah.
That's awesome, and it's so great too because you're including the Cosmo Canyon Observatory community in the process of developing your content, and I do love that idea as well. And hopefully now, you'll have more time to focus on other projects for CCO. So
yeah, that too.
Yeah. So the best way to support Vyzz at CCO is obviously to like and subscribe. If you guys haven't done so already, please go to YouTube and you can just type in Cosmo Canyon Observatory and check out his incredible content. And he does have a Discord server that's quite active as well.
Yeah.
And people have been asking the best way to support us here at the podcast. The best way is to sub and like and share and just, talk about the podcast and spread the word about the podcast to your friends. And it's free and it's basically the best way to support us here. And I did start creating a Patreon page and I actually ended up stopping. I'm so bad. I didn't finish it. So there's no way for you guys to donate to Patreon for us yet, but one of my goals is I'm actually going to finish it. And I'll
good luck with that.
Yeah. And I'll let you guys know as soon as that's done, and then you guys can just use Patreon to support us. That would be awesome. I'm not sure what kind of like rewards we're going to come up with or what we're going to do, but it'll be something small, I think, because we're both so busy creating content, and we also have jobs outside of this, so yeah, but Stay tuned for that. All right, so what is in the schedule for today's episode? So we are going to be talking about the news and info about part 2 in the series, and hopefully we'll be answering a question from our one of our Twitter users that subs us. They posted a question to our Twitter, so we'll be answering that question today. And yeah, that's pretty much it, but it's gonna be a lot, so let's get into it here. All right, so the first little bit of news that we got was that part 2 was in development. And this information I found on US Gamer website and another website, CBR. So I think it's great that we just have confirmation. I know that it was a while ago that this was confirmed, but we took a little hiatus, so we haven't actually had time to talk about part 2 together on the podcast. So it appears that the development was affected by COVID-19 back when it first hit. But it looks like Square Enix transitioned to a work from home platform. So this was translated in a Famitsu article, and it does mention this. I'm not sure if this will impact the development cycle or the release date, but for example, like just a comparison how during the development of the first part, Square Enix brought the development in-house after CyberConnect 2, and that did put a delay on the development. It pushed back the release date. I think that was, and it was like a multitude of things that why they had to push the date back, but that was one of the things, I think, because they had to like go back and kind of restart a lot of the stuff.
Well, mostly touch up things, and
yes,
not the complete restart. This was fake news back then.
Yeah, not a complete restart, but they did remodel the characters, which obviously takes a long time. Exactly, and I think that this obviously isn't happening this time because the next parts are going to be, you know, made at Square Enix in-house, so they won't have to deal with kind of restarting and remodeling and doing the lighting system again and doing all that over, even though COVID did happen. Apparently, Katase said that they aren't working at 100% efficiency, but he did say that he doesn't think that this will impact the release schedule. And then we did get a Twitter post, I think, from the Mocap Actors that were confirmed to be working on part 2, and it was Tifa's Mocap Actor and the other person.
Cloud, I think.
Was it Cloud?
Sure.
Okay.
I think so, yeah.
So it was confirmed that they were working alone initially, but they were given permission to add another person to be able to act in the scenes during the mocapping. But I wasn't able to find another update to see if like the full production team is back and if the full mocap actors are actually back acting together in all the scenes together. So I wasn't able to find any information on that. But that's a good thing.
At least something.
Yeah, exactly. And then there was a Famitsu article that was released. Katase, here's a quote from the article. So he says that we know that everybody wants the next installment quickly. We would also like to deliver it as soon as possible. Since we were also able to see the line of quality from the first installment, we hope to make the next installment even better in quality. That can make for an even better experience. We would like to get it out as soon as possible, so please wait for it. I think we can clearly convey the direction when we officially announce the next installment. So this is kind of talking, like he was basically talking about the wait between the installments and just to kind of help us feel better, I guess, that we're going to have to wait for this next part. But the kind of internet just kind of went crazy over this, and people were saying that it means that they're going to rush out the next parts, and the next like parts of this series are going to be smaller, so the wait time and the development time between each part won't be as long. And he was kind of quoted as saying that as well, like he wants to get it out as soon as possible. He doesn't want us to wait that long. So what do you think about that?
As we know from previous interviews, Kitase and Nomura-san, I think it's a Japanese thing that they talk in a way that they try to ensure us, like try to use sentences and words that should make us feel comfortable. Oh yeah, they also don't want this to take too long, but then we read into it, and since they usually don't confirm things and always talk in vague terms and whatever, this is just the Japanese way, and we Westerners need to understand that.
Yeah.
We need to look at the big picture and not only focus on one quote or on one interview, and need to look at everything. And in the past, they confirmed, I think, multiple times that each entry will be a full Final Fantasy game. Of course, this could change, but I hope not. But if this still holds true, then we should be getting around the size of this first installment.
Yeah.
2 or 3 more times, which I think it's a decent size. It's not like if you just rush through, it can finish it pretty quickly. But it still has a lot to offer, I think, even if it lacks a little bit in the end game department. I highly doubt that they will go for 10-hour experiences and the rush development like pumping out a yearly release and get sloppy and cut stuff or drop in quality. This is just honestly a little bit of fear mongering from the naysayers, if I may say so. But I don't think this is the case. It wouldn't really make sense anyway. And he also mentions that the next installment, we hope to make the next installment even better in quality. This means they won't go back, like deliver something that's less in quality or less in magnitude, whatever, than the first game. So I don't think we need to worry about that. But what I'll get to this later, but it really depends on how they go about this regarding how many parts there will be and how much content there will be in each installment. But yeah, this is something they probably are figuring out right now. So how much they can squeeze into one without compromise, but without like making us wait another 5 years.
Yeah,
that's probably the exact problem they're figuring out right now. But I don't think it's that much of a problem because they need to tell the whole story anyway. So where they split doesn't in the end really matter that much. It just means they need to maybe tweak a few things a little bit to make it feel like an ending or something. So I don't think it's. I think they're pretty dynamic in their way they're developing, or I hope so at least. And what's more, I think pre-production was surely underway way before the release, because all those creating like the artworks, just the pre-production stuff, like and how to plan out certain parts and how to do this, how to do that, maybe include this and that, a rough sketch of certain scenarios and stuff. I don't think they wait with everything until the game releases, because in the later stages, it's much more like actual development, 3D modeling, texturing, finishing the systems, creating all the boss battles and balancing and everything like that. And in this phase, you don't really need pre-production staff on board, so they can already start on the next one. So I'm pretty sure that the pre-production has possibly even finished, which is why they're already in full development so shortly after release of the first game. So this should also speed up things. I'm pretty sure. But I'm no pro in game development. I've never worked at a studio, so I only know from hearsay what I read from websites and stuff like that. And in general, how things work also in software development. And yeah, but maybe a listener knows more and can weigh in, but this is what I know and what I believe.
Yeah. Another issue when like these big interviews are kind of published as well, and it's in Japanese, a lot of sometimes the meaning, like it's being translated, but sometimes I feel like the meaning is also just being lost. So when we're reading it, we're not grasping the entire meaning of everything when we're reading it. So people might jump the gun and just assume that, you know, this is the way that it is, like, but there's different ways of saying things in different languages that may carry a different meaning. You know what I mean?
Especially Japanese.
And it's not possible to kind of capture that in English or a different language, because they don't have the same way of like expressing like a certain expression or something like that, you know? And I'm just taking this with a grain of salt, basically. I'm the same thing with you. I'm kind of like, I'm hoping that they're going to take their time and do the best that they can to release this in, you know, an appropriate amount of time, and also keep the same quality, like you said, but just continue the story and extend it like they did with the first part, you know. But I don't mind waiting for this a little bit longer, but I just don't think that's going to happen. I think that they do want to release this as soon as possible, because they want people to continue to talk about Final Fantasy VII Remake. And as soon as this game is out of people's minds, then people are not going to come back for the next part. They're not going to buy it. They're not going to remember, you know what I mean? Like they're going to have to go back and then replay the first game again, and then With the next consoles coming out, maybe they'll have an opportunity to do that with backwards compatibility. We're going to talk a little bit about this later.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, I really hope that they take their time. And I don't think that it's going to be delayed because of COVID, because I think that the whole situation of them from the get-go developing this in-house kind of cancels out the whole COVID situation, because I think that, like, the development of the first part started a long time ago. We know this because we had confirmation of this and we talked about this on previous episodes, but it took them so long. But it took them longer than they anticipated because of the fact that they actually took everything back in-house after CyberConnect 2 was working on it, right? So that had an impact on it. So that's not happening this time. So, a lot of the employees are working from home. I think that's going to be fine. I just want to go ahead and talk now about the Famitsu article. So this was an article posted on IGN the 28th of April. It says that Nomura said that he would like to deliver the next part of the Final Fantasy VII Remake story quickly, and to do so would require focusing on a smaller portion of the overall plot. So that quote actually comes from the Ultimania. Sorry, I made a mistake. I thought it was the Famitsu article, but this isn't. It's from the Ultimania, Final Fantasy VII Ultimania guidebook that was translated. And this it was shared online. The translation was shared online by a Twitter user.
Aitai Kimochi, I think is the handle. Audrey is the name. She translated a lot of stuff. It's really great. She even has a master list on Tumblr, I think it is, or Instagram.
Yeah,
one of both. I don't remember which. With all the links to her translations and stuff. The few newest, latest ones are not on there yet.
Yeah,
but you can still browse her Twitter with the hashtag FF7R Famitsu or FF7R Ultimania.
Yeah. And it was a lot, so I did read through a lot of it, but I didn't finish it because there's so much. But it did say, when asked about how many parts the remake will comprise of, Kitase said that they have a rough idea on that, but it's not completely decided yet. He said that it seems that many people think that it will be a trilogy. And he said it all depends on how many parts they make. But if they separate it into bigger chunks, it will take more time. But if they take smaller portions of it, it can be done in a shorter span. So he said, personally, I would like to deliver it fast. So, like, I guess that means that if this is what he wants, then it's going to be more parts, but smaller chunks of the story. But we just don't have like 100% confirmation on this. But I understand why they want to do that. But I don't think that that's what I want. But I'm not also the general public, right? Like I think a trilogy is a good idea, and I want it to be the best that it can be. So I don't mind waiting for 3 years for this. I really don't, because I'm invested in this series, right? So I don't mind waiting. I mean, the wait is going to be hard, and I hate waiting, but I don't mind waiting if they're going to create it the way that they want, instead of just rushing it out for the simple fact that people, like, they want it fresh in people's memories, right? So if they release, smaller chunks on a more regular schedule, let's say once every year, then I guess it's more fresh in people's memories, so they'll want to go back to it more often and they want to finish the story. I'm not sure, but yeah, I just want them to complete the vision that they want so that the game is the best that it can be. And I don't mind waiting for, 3 years. If it has to be 3 years, it's 3 years. If it has to be 4 years, then it's 4 years. Like, I really don't mind, but other people are not like me. They are like, on to the next biggest thing. Boom, like, it comes out, it's a brand new game, they buy it, they want to play it, and then they're done with it, and then they move on from that. They don't want to kind of come back to it after. And I understand that. So I can see the challenge for them trying to decide like what to do. And Yeah. So the thing with me is that the only other evidence that we have based on another trilogy that they've done is a Final Fantasy 13 trilogy. So I looked up on VG Sales Final Fantasy's fandom on their website, and it has the total numbers of sales on all platforms for Final Fantasy 13 trilogy. So 13 sold 7.7 million copies worldwide, and 13.2 sold about half of that, which was 3.6 million. And Lightning Returns, which is the third installment of the series, sold about half of 3.6, which is 1.2 million. So the
Well,
wait,
a third.
a third, yeah.
It's even worse.
It's even worse, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I did divide it in half, and it was 3.8, or sorry, 1.8. But this is worse than 1.8. It's not even, it's a third. So the
Yeah.
wait time between these games was about 2 years.
Yep.
So how long would development time, do you think, be? Like a year and a half development, and then it like 6 months of marketing, or
I'm pretty sure it takes 2 years minimum, because there's still so much to do, especially if they want to up the quality yet again. And even if they create, let's say, 4 parts in total, like this means 3 parts to go. I don't think they can finish it with the same level of quality and the additional content, and no compromises on existing content. They're just done in less than 2 years. I can see that coming. So my prediction is 2 to 3 years, something like that. It also really depends on how many parts there will be. If there are still 2 parts, I can see even almost 4, maybe 3 to 4. And I tend to overestimate, because if I say, oh, well, yearly release, done, good. And then in a year, not a single trailer out, and then I'm disappointed. So I try to be realistic, conservative in my estimations, because I know AAA development really takes a long time. We saw this with The Witcher 3. We saw this with Red Dead Redemption 2, with the new God of War, with Horizon Zero Dawn. All of them took like 6 or 7 plus years for the whole thing. Granted, those are complete new creations. Well, not really for Red Dead Redemption 2, but this is it's not a sequel with the exact same gameplay. It's not quite the same, and it's also a huge game. But here, in the case of the remake, they have a lot of like basic stuff done.
Yeah.
Like a lot of systems and some assets are done. They can just take it. And from previous comments, I think even from Yosuke Matsuda, I think it is. Is this the CEO from Square Enix, or from something? I don't quite remember which position he's in. But in an investor meeting, he said something about that the developers made sure to look forward to the next generation, like preparing the game for the next generation, or with the next generation in mind. So I think everything they've done, they made it so that they don't need to redo everything to up the quality for, say, the PlayStation 5 or the PC. I'm pretty sure everything is already prepared, mostly for the next generation, so they can just roll with it and add all the new assets and characters and scenes and what have you. But still, it is a lot. It is quite a lot that has to be done still. With some tweaking, quality assurance, especially if they want to go the route of no patches.
Yeah.
So this needs time. That's why I say 2 years minimum, no matter what they do. Unless they go the actual episodic route with like 5 to 10 hours, but this is just not feasible for an RPG, which has character development and level systems and stuff that you just can't create such short. Well, maybe it works, but they started off with a full game, so I don't think they can change this now. Yeah, that's about it for my estimation. 2 to 3 years, give or take.
The thing is that what I'm thinking about though is like financially, can they actually do that financially? And that's, I think that a lot of them, a lot of the time are at the hands of the financial investors, and that's a lot, like that has an impact on, like how many parts we're going to get, and how like the release schedule of these parts, and whether it's going to be like like bigger parts or smaller parts, like smaller chunks of the story, right? Because like the only history that we have where they released the trilogy is what I just said about Final Fantasy 13, and the sales went down significantly between parts, and the development time between those games, like I mean, between the games that they were released was about 2 years, and they lost a lot of their consumer base between installments, and that was only 2 years. Like the people did not really, not that many people bought Lightning Returns. Like they did not stay for that whole, to finish that trilogy. Granted, yes, the trilogy had a lot of issues. It had a lot of, I mean, we talked about this previously on other episodes as well. Like, it was like, this is our opinion. I love the gameplay. For me, the story was very convoluted. It was hard to understand. A lot of the story was buried in text logs that you had to read, which is okay, but like I know that was a different time. But when we're thinking about this as a trilogy going forward, like, do you think that they can afford to not release a game like the next part of the series for 3 years? I don't know if they can. I really don't. I think 2 years is pretty much the maximum, because people will be moved on to other games. The new consoles are coming out. I just don't know if they're going to be able to. And then if they don't sell, the next part doesn't sell that as much as the first part, then they're losing funding because they're not making as much profit. So then they're not able to create something that's of high quality as the first part, which is what happened in Lightning Returns. They didn't make that much money, and look at the funding that they got to make that game. I mean, it's like, what is it, 1/5 of like what they had originally for the first one. So it's concerning. It's concerning for me, and I just don't know. And I think they're at the hands of their investors. Like they really are. I really think so. And I was on YouTube and I was watching videos about, I think there was a business analyst or a financial investor in Square Enix or something like that had talked to about the earnings and everything, the fiscal earnings, because it was up because they released the remake. They sold 5 million copies, I think. That was the last updated number that we had about that. But they were just saying that like Square Enix is not going to be able to release like more than, one more part, because financially it's just going to hurt them so much if they continue the process. Like, we wait 3 years, it's part 2, then another 3 years for part 3. Like they're not financially able to do that, because the cost of development is going to go up and not as many people are going to buy the next parts. So anyway, it was just interesting, because I was like, it was a side of things that I was kind of, I had in the back of my mind, but I guess wasn't like that big of a deal. But it is, because if it doesn't sell, then if part 2 doesn't sell, then it's like, oh God, like what are we going to get for part 3? And part 3 is probably the most important, really, because it's the ending to everything, so anyway.
Yeah, there are a lot of concerns, that's true, but there are also more factors, because in the case of Final Fantasy 13, the game itself had a lot of problems. It was too linear. It had, as you said, a little bit of convoluted story, many of which was hidden behind data logs, which not everyone wanted to read. When the leader died, it was game over, and so on and so on. It wasn't received too well by the fans, which is probably why many of them didn't really care about the second one. And the second one was, I don't know, maybe it's the lead was the little sister of Lightning, and it wasn't even Lightning that
exactly
was the main character there.
Yeah.
Maybe in the prologue, yes, but in the rest, no. it had only actually 2 characters, so the third one was just a monster you had to catch and then get into your team.
Yeah.
It was a completely different system from that point, and maybe people thought, well, the first one wasn't that good. This doesn't really look any much better, so I won't buy it. And then this one maybe was a little bit better gameplay wise, but story wise, meh. And then many people thought, well, Lightning Returns, another one? Nah, just keep this crap away from me. I'm not sure how they thought. I wasn't paying too much attention about fan reactions, and I don't remember everything. I played all 3. I thought Lightning Returns was really good, but it's a completely different scenario. Also, this wasn't meant to be a trilogy from the start. Here, it is a remake of a beloved game. We know the overall story, and we want to know how it pans out. We got a glimpse of how they intend to complete the whole thing, in which format, how the individual scenes got extended, how new content made its way in, and how good they nailed the characters and the music and everything else. We talked about that at length in previous episodes.
Yeah.
So I think this factor goes extremely in favor of the remake here. So I'm pretty sure a lot of people will buy the second part. I know of a few that won't, because of whatever reason. They didn't. Mostly, they didn't care about this whole fate thing and the new aspects, which of course could be a concern. But we also saw that many people before the remake came out whined about, oh, it's not turn-based anymore, it's action, don't want to play this. And still, a lot of people bought it.
Yeah, there are some people that it wasn't what they wanted or imagined it would be, so obviously, they're not happy with it, and that's going to happen. That's going to happen anyway.
Yeah, that's always, and I don't think that's the majority. I think it's a quite small minority, and most of them, especially those who are not that invested, or even just started getting into Final Fantasy VII, they liked it. Most of them, anyway. And I think Metacritic score is also pretty good from the user base and all in general user reviews. I don't remember reading really bad ones. So this factor again,
that's true.
It's pretty good.
But I'm pretty sure that Final Fantasy XIII got a better. It depends on the website, right? Because I remember that on IGN, I'm pretty sure it got 8 out of 10.
That's mainstream.
Remake
that's mainstream,
well?
And this is you can't really count on that.
Yeah,
I don't remember. Also, you need to look at all of them. Also, Famitsu gave him, I think, a perfect score of Final Fantasy XIII. I don't know why. Yes.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure it received a
serious?
Perfect or near perfect. I think 39 or 40. I don't remember if it really was a perfect or almost near perfect. 13, Famitsu was hailing it into heavens. I don't know.
Wow.
It was pretty insane, but it's also a Japanese creation, and they think differently. And Famitsu is also pretty partial to Final Fantasy, as far as I can tell. So,
but were they harsh on the remake? I thought they were harsh on it, weren't they? It didn't, or was that a different?
I don't think so.
I
don't think so.
It must have been a different website. I remember,
probably,
or a different review, game review site that was particularly harsh, and people were like, "Oh,
I don't remember
don't mind that or something."
Score.
I can't remember.
No, it must be another one, because I think Famitsu was also pretty favorable of the remake.
I don't think I read one bad review. I think it was just that one that I looked at, but it just was just written so terribly. I was like, okay, I just can't even take this as
legit.
Yeah, as legit. So I just don't even care about what it's saying, because it's just absolutely ridiculous. So. But I couldn't remember what site it was, but it's a pretty big one, I think. It was pretty controversial, but websites like that survive on clicks and ad revenue. So oh, I'm gonna have a controversial opinion, so more people click on it. It's not necessarily true, right? It's just
hate
like
clicks,
biased opinion or whatever. But
yeah.
But you brought up some good points there, and like people like us are invested for the long haul, right? Like diehard fans of the series, and we just want to see this, to the end.
Exactly.
And we're in it to win it, and that's, our choice, and that's fine. And I think that like Square Enix knows that, but I think that they do have a challenge to keep their new fans that they got from this game, like the first part of the remake. I think that they really need to do something to kind of keep that new player base as well, that are new to Final Fantasy, that have never played a Final Fantasy before until they played Remake, right? So they need to think of ways to kind of keep the conversation going and keep the new fans, I guess, interested in wanting to come back to, buy part 2 and continue to play through the series.
On the other hand, don't you think it doesn't really matter if it takes 2 or 3 years? Because if I'm interested in the next one, usually people can wait, and if it takes a year longer, they just play it a year later. Maybe that's just me, but I don't really see a big issue there if it just takes a bit longer to come out, because I can't really rationalize the train of thought of if it takes two or more years, I'm not interested, I won't buy it. I can't really find a rational argument for that to be legit. Maybe it could be that maybe the timing is worse a year later, so that this many people maybe have other games to play, or the remake has more competition in that time frame. That's
what I'm thinking.
But this can also happen a year earlier. It's this is not really dependent on a specific time span. This is dependent on the timing. And I think if they foresee a bad timing, they will push back the release date. If it's really that bad, I'm pretty sure. Or do more marketing research at the beginning.
I just think that they need to continue the conversation and continue to have some kind of presence there, so that it's in people's minds, right? So that it just doesn't like it's over, it goes away, and then people forget about it. And they just, at that time, like, we just don't know what's going to happen. We do know that there's new consoles on the horizon that are coming out. We don't know what games will be released for them like 3 years from now. You know what I mean? Like you said about competition and that sort of thing. But I think that it's in their best interest to continue to have, do things to keep the game in our brains. Like other people that are outside of us, because we are in this anyways. So, I mean, for new fans, that even children too, that, don't have a lot of money to be able to buy a lot of games, and maybe with the new console coming out, they might only be able to get like 1 game or something, or 2 games or something. Like, I don't know. I'm just trying to argue from both sides. You know what I'm saying?
Sure. No, I appreciate that. The thing is, I think the main problem here is that they need to find some marketing strategy in between this this time span. Of course, shorter the time span between releases, it's easier. But I don't think it's impossible. Yeah. We also have this the exclusivity, the timed exclusivity. So from April 10th and onward, you'll see this game on other platforms, PS5, PC, maybe even Xbox X or Series X, maybe, I don't know. And this is also then a good way to push the game again.
Yeah,
that's for sure something. Maybe there's an update which contains additional content, additional scenarios, or something extended. I don't know. Maybe a few more side quests. I'm not really sure if they should do this. I err more on the side of keep all resources on the new game, so you can actually release this within 3 years, or maybe even 2. But this would also be good to push the game again, maybe even put it on sale again, maybe a year from now or something.
Yeah.
Also, when it's ready, we'll have trailers. They have maybe events or something. Maybe they even put out a demo again on, maybe not a public demo, but maybe when they do those public conventions again.
Yes.
Then
If
maybe people
those
can
end
play
up
it.
happening.
Yeah, that's debatable. Everything has
like Gamescom
had to move. Yeah, everything has had to move online. And at this point, why not just upload the public demo to the PSN and other market spaces?
Yeah.
But then again, if they do this, it will get data mined if they're not careful.
Yeah.
Last time it was a pretty big oversight, as we discussed in earlier episodes, with the encryption key being within the metadata. Stupid.
They didn't even come out and make like a public statement or anything. It was just not like, really. Oh well.
Yeah. Those are all those factors that factor in, and they are able to keep us informed and keep us on track and not forget about this, because if people forget about this game and it comes out in 3 years, maybe they don't even realize it's out.
Yeah.
That's why they need to market this thing, maybe not as heavily as they did now, but still they need to do this. And I think that's enough to bridge the gap.
I think that I like the point that you said first with the new consoles coming out, the PS5, the Xbox Series X. I think that happening could actually be to their advantage because of the fact that they can release a specific, like a PS5 version of Remake and sell it. And the same thing with Series X. And like you said, the timed exclusivity is expiring April the 10th. So are we going to see, like, obviously we're going to see the game on Xbox One. We're definitely, well, I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure we're going to get it on PC. And I wouldn't be surprised if it was actually the same time that it came to Xbox One, that it came to PC.
Oh, for sure.
Because of the fact that Xbox Series X is coming out and all the news about that, because I listened to another podcast as well, and I've done some research about that. Microsoft is actually releasing, I think, all of their software that comes out for Xbox Series X, like their exclusive Xbox Series X games, are coming to PC as well.
That's true, yeah.
So it sounds like they have an opportunity to be able to use the new consoles to kind of keep it fresh in people's minds, because then they're opening up their player base, because, you know, the Xbox One, people who own the Xbox One haven't even gotten to play this game yet. Right?
Neither did the PC crowd, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Unless they own a PS4 and then they want to rebuy it or whatever. But that's a whole nother platform of people that haven't even played this game yet, who will be excited to be able to play it then, and then talk about it, you know, amongst each other and online. And then the PS5 and Xbox Series X is coming out. I think it's this holiday season, right? So who knows? Are we going to get upgraded versions? Like not a remaster per se, but are we going to get, I mean, kind of a remaster, but just an upgraded version of the PS4 version of the game? Are they going to release a retail copy? You know?
Hard to say.
More people are going to be talking about it then. And they just did a Final Fantasy VII Remake event in Brave Exvius, their mobile game as well.
True, right.
Which, you know, it covers kind of like the mobile audience, because they're playing that game and they're seeing remake content in that game, so it's kind of keeping it fresh in their minds. And then we also have Final Fantasy XIV. Like, who knows if they'll do a collab event or release costumes in the game from Remake or something. Like, I don't know. They have options, you know, to kind of keep it fresh in people's minds. So
exactly. That's also what I wanted to say. Crossovers in other games. This is almost a must. Maybe even something else for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, I think it's called. Is Cloud playable there, or was Cloud only in the previous one? I don't remember. Because to one of the Smash Brothers game, Cloud was actually a full playable member with a stage, Midgar stage, and everything.
I think that was Smash Ultimate for the Switch. I think he's part of the roster, but for the 3DS, I think that he was a DLC character that you could purchase, but I think he's part of the party now. Like he's just a default character, which is still awesome because, you know,
of course, yeah,
it's a crossover game, right? So yeah,
and other crossovers, I can see that. So keeping the remake in people's minds shouldn't be that much of a difficult task. So yeah, I'm currently sticking with 2 to 3 years. If it's less and they keep the quality and same length overall and same content, volume of content, and I'm happy, but I can't see it coming. So 2 years, 2 years minimum. Yeah, we'll see when they drop the next trailer. we see how far they are, and or if it's just a teaser, and then it takes another year for the next trailer to come out. We don't know. Yeah.
What would you think if it was just like a year and it was a smaller chunk? Like, would you care? Like, if it was a year and it was just like a DLC that you bought on PSN that was like installed on top of the first part, so that you didn't have to go to the store or order like a retail copy. You just bought the digital version as DLC, and it was like more story or something. I don't know what they would call it, but you know how 15 had like episode Pronto and episode Ignis, like
firstly, I don't see this coming, and secondly, I probably would be a bit disappointed, because if it's just a small chunk DLC, it might, I don't know, maybe go until the gold saucer.
Yeah.
Maybe not even. And this is just not satisfactory. It doesn't really satisfy the need, because the story is just it would just stop there.
Yeah.
And this is why I want to provide a little bit of a sneak peek into a video I have planned for whenever, where to split when they create 4 parts. I've been sitting on this for a year now, I think, give or take. And the only I'll try to keep it short, because we're also almost an hour in now. But yeah, I'll try to keep it short. So only the gists of 4 parts. My 3-part video was Midgar, of course. This came true. Then Summoning of Meteor, and then the end. Those are the 3 points. A 4-part would effectively split my proposed part 2 into 2 chunks. Like, it starts at Calm in the flashback, probably with Cloud and Sephiroth sitting in the car, and then it goes up to Nibelheim. Not full Nibelheim, but most of Nibelheim part. It's massively extended upon to kind of wrap up this whole Nibelheim arc, and Nibelheim in the past, Nibelheim now in the present, now the Sephiroth and the general battle, what have you. And then part 3 starts there too, with the cloaked people all around, which kicks off the reunion, which then culminates and concludes at Northern Crater, the Whirlwind Maze, when Weapon awakes and Sephiroth summons Meteor. Oh, maybe we should have put a spoiler warning in before that, but whatever.
Oops, maybe sorry guys.
Whoops, spoiled. Maybe you can record a spoiler warning and insert it in there. I don't know. Didn't really think about that.
It's all good.
Yeah. Anyway, part 3 will then stop, and part 4 will then kick off with the lowest point where the party is about to be executed. And then it's all about stopping Meteor. This ensures that we have like actual story arcs that have a beginning, middle, and an end. Or at least beginning and end. Middle is malleable. And this is how I can see them creating 4 parts. If they create 3 parts, I can only see them doing is really like, splitting where Sephiroth summons Meteor. This means pretty linear and straightforward part 2, and then probably completely open world part 3 with the Highwind and many more much more additional content, Wu-Tai stuff, maybe, I don't know. Maybe we can also try to fix the planet, fix people's lives after Cloud gets his real memories back, and do a little bit more before we go into the end game.
I'm like you. I want to have full-length games. I don't want to have small
definitely.
chunks as DLC. I just don't want that. I don't want to play for, like, I don't know, like episode Yuffie or something, and it's just go to Wu-Tai and then we're like, you get extra story and then you get Yuffie on your party and you play and it's like a 10-hour DLC and that's it. Like, I don't want that. Like, I want a full-fledged game like the first part.
Yes.
How many games are in the compilation in total, like not including Remake? There's 4, right? Was there 4? Because there's Crisis Core.
The Remake is the 5th, I think, yeah. Original, Crisis Core, Dirge Cerberus, and before Crisis, yep.
So there's 4. Outside of, like, the Remake isn't included, yeah.
Well, Advent Children is also there. Maybe this 5th. But there are 4 games.
Advent Children is a movie, right?
It's a movie, yeah. But it's still an entry story-wise, so, yeah.
Yeah. But I'm just trying to think, like, maybe they would do 4 because it's, like, a perfect 4 where the compilation has 4. So they would do...
Maybe.
So it's kind of... Anyway. But also, on top of everything you just said about the other parts, spoiler warning for everybody that hasn't played the game yet, you're going to want to turn the podcast episode off now, or pause it, or skip it. At the end of this game, like, we don't know what's going to happen, right? Because anything can happen now because of everything that happened at the end of the game. We just don't know,
in theory,
what's going to happen, right? So who knows if those events in the original are even going to happen in these next parts because of, what happened at the end of Remake. So anyway, we just won't know. Yeah. We just won't know until the game comes out.
Yeah. Although Kitase did say that we can expect the main events play out too. Well, not play out the same, but the main events will still be there. So we can expect a Final Fantasy VII story. Nothing completely different.
See, I did read that, but then I also read right after that, like maybe 2 weeks after, they actually retracted that and said that that's not what they meant. Or something. Anyway.
Oh, did they? Okay.
Yeah, they did. Apparently they did. They said that that's not what they meant to say. What they meant to say was anything can happen in this new imagining of the world of Final Fantasy VII. Basically is what they said. They don't know.
Well, those are not really mutually exclusive, because anything can happen, but the main story beats can still be there, not exactly the same as they happened in the original, but we still go to the Chocobo farm, we still cross
I hope so,
across to the other continent with in the Shinra freight ship or cargo ship. We still go to the Gold Saucer. We get taught by Bugenhagen about the live stream. We go to Nibelheim. We get set in Rocket Town. We go to Wu-Tai, the Temple of the Ancients. Aerith goes away. The event, which could turn out quite differently at the Forgotten Capital, but still similar maybe. Then this whole snowscape, whatever. As I said before, the execution at Junon, the huge materia stuff, Cloud's regaining or journey through the live stream and regaining of the memories, all those things that like the core things.
I hope so,
what
Vyzz.
drives
I
the
hope
main
so.
story. But in between and even within those events, anything can happen.
Yeah.
Like the way we get into the Junon cargo ship, or the cargo ship from Junon to Costa del Sol. Do we really need to do the exact same thing again? Of course, it would be cool to take part in the parade, but I can see most of those things just play out differently or reimagined. Maybe some, maybe even exactly the same, just with a new spin. That's probably what they meant to say, that anything can happen.
Yeah.
But we still want to provide a Final Fantasy VII experience, because if the story will turn out completely different, they might as well just call it Final Fantasy XVI.
Well, guys, there's your preview of our next episode where we will be talking about where the story is going to go in Remake Part 2.
Yep.
So, all that to look forward to on our next episode. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I hope that we get all of those things. It's just that something tells me that it's going to be different and things will play out that are the same, but anything is possible now, and things that we got in the first game probably won't end up happening because of the changes that have happened in the alternate timeline or whatever. We just don't know. So, and I actually found a bunch of articles that are super interesting that I have saved for our next episode, and I can't wait to bring those things up to you to see what your opinion about those things, about the story and where it's going to go in part 2. So, but back to the releases for the remake on the new consoles. I think I'm going to buy it on PC when it comes out for PC, but I don't know if I'll buy it on PS5. I'm not going to buy a PS5 unless it has like a crazy good exclusive, because I buy PlayStation because I love the exclusives, right? So mostly everything on Xbox is on PC, and I have a gaming PC. So I buy a lot of the Xbox games on PC and I play them on PC. So I don't really need to buy an Xbox, but I just don't know how it's going to work. Like, we just don't know because we know PS5 is going to have backwards compatibility. So like, we just don't know, like, if they're going to release a PS5 version that's going to have upgraded graphics, if they're not going to do that and they're just going to have like an HD patch that downloads, kind of like when you buy a PS4 game and you put it in your PS4 Pro, it kind of, like, the developers were given the opportunity to create like a high-tech, like HD texture pack or 4K texture pack, basically, and it's free. You don't have to buy it, right? It just downloads. And I know that Final Fantasy 13 on Xbox One, I think it was Xbox One or Xbox One S or something like that, when you put it in the original Xbox version of 13, and it just downloads behind the scenes like the best textures possible, and then basically you're playing it in like 4K, and apparently it's the best, most smoothest version that you can play, even better than the PC version. And like, people don't even know that this is what they got. Like, they didn't have to rebuy 13 for Xbox One. Like, it's just the Xbox 360 version, but apparently it just downloads this patch and plays it in higher quality than, like, and better performance than the PC version. Like, I watched a video on it, which is super interesting, because are they going to do that with the PS5? Like, I put a PS4 game in and it just uses the extra hardware to play it at the highest fidelity, the highest frame rate, and it'll download a patch if there is one, so that I don't need to buy a PS5 version of like a remaster, like Final Fantasy VII Remake remastered.
Yeah, that would be ideal, and I think that's probably what they're aiming for, because backwards compatibility from 5 to 4 is a given. Probably not for all games, but they're trying to include as many games as they can. This makes sense, and this whole remaster debacle, I call it this.
Oh my god.
Was mostly because of the incompatibility between PlayStation 3 and 4, because they had completely different architecture and processor architecture.
Yeah.
This is most likely the problem. They couldn't really, emulation might have worked, but probably not reliably, and maybe they fiddled around with it and thought of it,
Apparently that's what PS5 has. I read it somewhere that PS5 is going to have backwards compatibility with emulation. So they might not even be able to like run a PS4 game on the PS5 at higher fidelity because it's emulation. So it's as if there's like a PS4 Pro inside of your PS5, right? So anyway, we just don't know, but I'm going to be definitely rebuying it on PC, because I think that's going to be like the best version. And hopefully we get those terrible textures patched out, and I just anyway.
Well, from what I've heard about and seen in regards to data mining, the high resolution textures are there for most of those
I saw that
low
posting.
res. For example, Cloud's Door and some
they just don't load because
skyboxes.
it's like an Unreal
something like that, yeah.
issue or something like that. Yeah, so
or how they optimize the game, and some textures and models are just not prioritized enough, and if they would load, then the frame rate would dip. I don't know.
I wish that they had just pushed it back a little bit more, but I know the pandemic hit, so then they were like, oh god, they probably just thought like we just need to release it, you know, like.
Yeah,
but I just wish that they did do a little bit more Q&A and fix those issues, but I love this game so much. It's not that big of a deal. It's just I'm hoping I'm thinking like their thought process is they're gonna have to release this on Xbox, and they're probably redoing it for PC. So they're gonna go back then, and then they're gonna be like, oh, okay, we need to make sure these textures are loading and give us the highest resolution textures and all of those things, because they're actually working on it. Because they were done the PS4 version, right? Like they're not going to go back, especially working from home in the pandemic, like and fix any of those things when they're probably working on part 2 right now and other projects as well, right? So
yeah, but when it releases on other platforms, I'm pretty sure this is a good opportunity to fix a few things, so that the other platforms don't suffer the same
and then they could probably release a patch, like they release an Xbox version, they release a PC version, you know, and then they're like, okay, so we fixed it, so now they're going to port it to PS4 and just release it then, you know. So anyway, we'll see what happens, but if you haven't played this game yet, you need to play it because it's incredible, and it doesn't matter about those small things. And I know that we, you know, picked it apart, but that's what we did because it was, you know, that's what we do on the podcast. You know, we were doing a review on the game. We're talking about all the different aspects of the game, including the graphics and the textures and all that sort of stuff. So yeah,
you can't just only talk about the good. You also need to talk about the bad, because only then can one improve. One being us, developers, whoever.
You don't have to agree with us. I mean, we all have different opinions, right? But and it's okay to be critical about something that you love as well, you know, because you want it to be the best as possible. That's the thing.
If you don't criticize and you're just jaded and don't really care, this is also not really a good sign.
So, do you think that we have enough time to answer this question from our Twitter?
I think so. I don't really have that much to say. So
all right, so here we go. This is a question from Grendel's mother on Twitter. All right, so here's what they say. They say, finally got to your spoiler cast. Not finished, but I had an idea. Yeah, no kidding. Seriously, each one's 4 hours, so good luck. Any thought on children being more in tune with the live stream? As far as I remember, Aerith only uses her live stream influencer powers on Marlene and Red 13, who she calls a child. Maybe since they've been more recently born into the world from the live stream. I don't know that it leads to any groundbreaking theories, but it's something that I haven't been able to shake. Plus, isn't almost exclusively kids with geostigma in Advent Children besides Cloud and Rufus? Thank you. So what do you think, Vyzz?
All right. First of all, there are a lot of people affected by geostigma in Advent Children. We see it more from kids because those are in the focal point of the scheme from the Remnants. But we also see many adults suffer, especially in the streets, like pretty much in the beginning when Denzel, I think it's his name, walks around or hangs around in the alleyway, and also sees this guy like dying in front of his eyes with coughing up this geostigma goo. So there are a lot of people from all ages, I gather, affected. But the children are used by the Remnants, that is Kadaj, Laws, and Yazoo, because they're the most impressionable and controllable, and most of them are also, I think, orphans, as far as I can recall. So it's easy to get them away, to say, hey, we are going to heal you, and the kids don't really know any better, because, they don't have this much life experience. And they go with them, and then are affected and controlled. I think this is in terms of geostigma and their, let's say, higher affectedness by the Remnants, not by geostigma itself, but by the Remnants. Cloud and Rufus are also affected. But the Remnants don't really try to get them on their side, as far as I can remember. Maybe Cloud, because he's one of them or something like that. But those are adults. They have experience. They know what they want, what they're doing most of the time. So I think this is why they chose the children to be their, I don't know, lackeys. I don't really know what you call them, conduits for.
Yeah, that's right.
I don't know. The words escape me. But this is in context of Geostigma, in context of the live stream itself. I can also see, as Grendel's mother alluded to, kids are born into the world only recently. They don't know as much. They're maybe more connected to the planet, are more open-minded, impressionable, want to learn things, don't know as much, are not tainted as much by life and experience and the bad things that happen. This is pretty much why I see them being more open to influences from the live stream, or callings or mumblings from the live stream, however you want to call it. This is also one aspect I will talk about in my upcoming Aerith video, because in this short scene with the glitch when Aerith hugs Marlene,
yes,
Aerith, while being a little bit surprised of Marlene's reaction, she knows what happened. So I think it's a mixture between Aerith wanting to, or maybe giving into the flow of the live stream, and Marlene being susceptible, or more susceptible to Aerith's powers, which enabled this exchange without Aerith actually wanting to deliberately instill knowledge or whatever she does there. I'll get more into this in the video, but you do see that this is something that also comes from Marlene's side, that this thing happens. Because, as I said, Aerith isn't actively doing this to her as she does to Red 13, because with Red 13, she actually places her hand on his forehead, and you see much more effects and live stream swirlings going on there. Yeah. The same at the portal towards the end of the game, when she heals or converts the portal, whatever. It's also like she casts a spell. With Marlene, it's just the screen that's glitching up. No additional effects, particle effects going on. So you can say that, I'm pretty sure you can say it's canon that children are more in tune with the planet generally. Even in the original, Marlene, having only met Aerith once, only for a short time, senses Aerith when the live stream comes along and aids wholly in the battle against Meteor. So this is also pretty interesting, that Marlene feels Aerith's presence.
Yeah.
So, I find it's a little bit of a shame that we don't see this more often depicted. Yeah. But maybe they go more into this in the remake, that there are more instances where we see children, like, even in the remake, I just remembered in the ending, Marlene senses her daddy through the flowers when he calls out to her. Unless it's meant to mean something different, but that's what I gathered from this.
Yeah.
At least at first glance. So there's something there with the children. Also, parallel to Star Wars, which is also an influence on many Final Fantasy games, the children are those that are like susceptible to the Force.
Yeah.
And are also the ones that get taken in by the Jedi Order to be trained. Yoda says to Luke, "You're too old to be trained, because he's already tainted by the world. He's not."
Oh, right.
Yeah, not as innocent and like open to the Force. He would be too much in his head and think too much, and which he also does.
Yeah.
which is why it's much simpler or easier to train children to become Jedi Masters in the end. Even Anakin is considered to be a little bit too old, which I find weird, but apparently, yeah, he's too old. With I think, is he 10 or 9? And
I'm not sure.
The Phantom Menace, I don't remember, or 8 or something like that. And he's also considered too old by Yoda. So there's something there, and maybe it wasn't the influence from Star Wars. Maybe it's just a lucky parallel. But in general, the innocence of children is something that is part of a theme or part of certain premises in fiction in general.
Yeah.
Or I can see that.
Yeah.
Which makes sense.
In that scene between Aerith and Marlene, like I didn't perceive that as Aerith was using her powers on Marlene. I interpret it more as Marlene could sense Aerith, and Marlene potentially could be like could also have powers or something like that. We just don't know. Maybe she's like we don't obviously know.
It's hard to say
if she's an ancient or something, but she seems to be like more sensitive. And I think that like Grendel's mother said, is the explanation for that could just be that she's a child, she's closer to the live stream because I mean, after you're born, like you're still closer to the live stream because your soul came from the live stream. So
exactly.
The amount of time that you've been alive is so short compared to an adult that's been further away from the live stream for a longer amount of time, right? So like you said, they're more impressionable, open-minded, they're more sensitive to it. So it could just be that she's more sensitive to it. Who knows? It could be that maybe she has powers. Like we just don't know. And especially too with the ending of the game and the changing of everything, we just don't even know. Like I just feel, for me, I just don't even know what's real and what's not. Because it's like those events happened, but then we just don't know if they would happen the same way now with the changes.
Yeah.
Right? We just don't know. So, and Red 13, like you said, it was more like she was kind of touching him and using her power to kind of gather information, maybe. I don't know. It kind of, because it shows like a flash of like his memories, right? Or you see something when she touches him because she's getting this information, or she's.
I don't think you see anything. It's just the live stream swirls underneath her hands that kind of heals the chaos in Red's mind and also gives him the knowledge about the whispers. He says as much in the next chapter when he drops some knowledge about them.
Right, but she, like, Aerith knows that. I think she actually she knows everything that's going on, and she knows more than what she should know because of everything that's happening with Sephiroth, like tampering with the timeline and everything, right? So she knows that, and she could be just sharing some of that information with Red or something.
Sure.
Like
she needs an ally.
Yeah,
because she can't just tell the others what's up, because then the whispers come and interfere, which happens in chapter 17 in her room, and. Red is more important, is more in tune with the live stream because of Cosmo Canyon, Buchenhagen, and he lives longer and knows more, and
more knowledge.
He is the ideal candidate to like help her a little bit in this regard, without her actually tampering with the timeline and fate, so to speak.
But as for Advent Children, it was the geostigma. I think a lot of it focused on showing us children, like you said, because it was like after everything happened, right? So like Midgar's destroyed, like the people, like a lot of people died, so the children didn't have any parents, like they were just orphans, right? So I feel like the movie focused more on showing that. That's why we saw more children having geostigma.
That's definitely one aspect, yeah. And I also think some orphans might stem from the Wutai War. I don't quite remember. But, well, the Wutai War was over 7 years ago, I think.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly, when Crisis Core starts, I think it's 7 years ago, when it was ongoing, and then, or did it stop 5 years? I don't quite remember the exact timeline. But It could be that some of those children were still young then and just lost their parents, or at least their father, and maybe the mother died in Sector 7. But then also that child should also be there. But Denzel is one of them who survived the plane crash. His parents were there, and he was somewhere else. I don't remember where. It says it in the episode Denzel in the anime, short 1-episode anime, where you also see Johnny, who created Johnny's Heaven outside. And yeah, I don't quite remember, but I'm pretty sure it's other children that lost their parents either in the Wutai War, or in the plane crash, or in a meteor fall. And yeah, they're being taken advantage of.
Yep. Well, I hope that we answered your question, Grendel's mother.
I hope so too.
It's kind of like we answered it, but we've also brought up more questions, right? So it's just really impossible to know, but for sure. But yeah.
I also should have done a bit more research before, but I didn't have time and energy to really go into it. So I just wrote down stuff that came to mind. So apologies for... well, it's a podcast. It's about just talking about things. It's not like a dissertation or something like that, or whatever. Yeah.
I'm sure that we'll talk a lot about that more in our next up and coming episodes as well, because we for our next episode we will be going more in depth about the story of Part 2 and where Square Enix may take the story for the future of Part 2. So if you guys have any ideas for any up and coming episodes, you can write us. You can join our Discord and write them in our suggested topics or question channels. You could also send them to our email. So our email is thereunionpodcast@gmail.com. thereunionpodcast@gmail.com. We do have a Twitter account. It's @reunion_podcast. Our Facebook is @reunionpodcast. And we do have a YouTube channel. It's The Reunion Podcast, and we do post all of our episodes there as well. So you can check us out there. We do have an Instagram account. It's The Reunion Podcast as well. And Vyzz, did you want to drop your socials for Cosmo Canyon Observatory?
Oh, for sure. It's mainly YouTube and Discord, Cosmo Canyon Observatory with spaces. And on Twitter, it's @cc_observatory. That's about it.
Yeah, like I said too, if you guys want to join our podcast Discord server, the link for the Discord server is actually in the description of every episode that we post, wherever you listen to your podcast. So if you click on that, and it'll just open up a web browser, and it'll ask you to join the server. So it's a great community. I think you guys should definitely join in on the conversation about this game that we love. All right, guys, so that's pretty much it for us today. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and also write a review about the podcast if you feel so inclined. Like I said before, it's free, and it's the best way to support us here at the podcast. All right, so this is Kai. I am signing off. Take care, guys. I wish you all the best.
Take care, guys.
Bye.